So you can hear that. That's just a little bit of sound from these videos. Look here on my website. Okay, so I'm going to read Avatar the Flood. So this book is, there's all these like figures that are trying to be gods and leveling up in the game, right? And so they move from like 1.2 to 2.3 to lots of, you know. So they finally become avatars, okay? And then when they become avatars, it's the highest level, they get kind of moved. They get really, I need more food. I need another lover. I need a heat-seeking radar for more lovers, a blue taffeta kimono, a machine gun, whole rodeos of cowboys and radical cribs, and more ammo, more ammo. I need some help. I'm gonna loot the world bazaar. Crude oil and fizzing sodas. I've got no filter. My lust is fatal, like the Russian roulette of God. Shiva shot one hot seed into the ocean floor, a fetal bolt of larvae, and my sizzling waves frothed in an arthy of lava, traveling over land and nation, mountain and fjord, a mare on fire. In the mouth of glaciers, the oceans rackle, I revolt, red hot snorts of pure heat. I barf up steaming piles of polymer surf in the Love Hotel. I drool upon the root of time. I feel through deltas of offal. I feel for a loose tooth in the crown of civilization and crash through. I see a fool floating on the neon raft, a final fool. I can't be sure if it's friend or foe, or my one and only Mahadev sitting in meditation on the roof of a mountain, whatever. The last guy left. I lick his foot in devotion. I offer up the loofah of a boat, my entire body of knowledge, wave after wave of nausea, and uplift of a single dove. Okay, so I'm going to read Unicorn 1.1 and then Radioactive Unicorn. I don't know how much time I have. Like
Whatever you look.
So you can see how these unicorns kind of level up. Okay. So Unicorn 1.1 in a chat room. It's in this one called Generation Book, the book of the ascent. They're all trying to ascend to the avatar status. So Unicorn 1.1. I'm somewhat corn fed, like genetically modified feed. I can con anyone into loving me, into thinking I'm non-toxic. I have ways of co-opting the unravished bride of quietness. I run away from live bodies. I once flirted with becoming a nun. Then I met a real icon inside an urn. Her name was Sylvia or Nico. I smeared her ashes on my flesh like a glittery ruin. I felt pretty unique. Now I've got coin, now I've got game. I'm not just another suckable curio. So this unicorn becomes a radioactive unicorn. So this is radioactive unicorn. Father with a reactor under pressure, supercritical. I drink the milk of meltdown. Scram, little rabbit, my tooth a pellet of active uranium, the germ of a complex morphology. Nuclear summer of wandering coordinates, frequent seizures and deranged grasslands. Power surge in the vagus nerve. Outsiders crush in. Can we talk about the private life of thorns? Hand tag, whirling with dispatches from the Buddha. Caution, biological hazard. No lick, no touch, no harm. Rome. Saints and knights drive by in tanks and gas masks. Cluster for the prize. Toss out some maidens with simple instructions. Click here to release your desired arrangements. Overriding acute apocalyptic fears. Virgins vanish in a cloud of emissions. No surprise. Husk my anguish and move on to far-flung graves and solitary burn. Okay, so I'm going to read two more because, you know, I kind of like to leave people wanting. So this is Mahadevi malware. So again, this radioactive diva is infecting computer systems, et cetera, et cetera. I could read Avatar the Virus, but I feel like it's too depressing. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Might get sad. Okay. Mahadevi malware. So she's kind of evil. Net Mama's got gamma rays in her marmalade. She's eating primal lava like raw meat. Hurt, be gaudy. Initiate, not champa, and feel safe from the arms race, from the malformation of aging. Net Mama says, rads and migrants are the materials of wartime. Folk with dynamo enigmas. She flagellates the magnetosphere, a fleet of ailments at her westernmost edge, them to sell. She's an artificial carnalite of the gig economy, a charnel artifact, a reservoir of half-lives and time lags, temporal variations of analytic metadata. Depending on their number, size, and interconnectedness, she accesses the subdermal asanas of convulsing divas. Okay, so I'm going to read one more poem, and it's called Dark Web. Like, so all of the, so it's an extension of this radioactive VIDHU is very viral and infects computer systems, etc. Okay, the dark web. My ultimate B-boy is a golden ripple of scrambled biodata with a plank-length attention span and a goat trap of origins unknown. I have a feel for such ciphers. I find you out and secrete you. I spy on you. I complete you. You, your strangers, your sprawl, your porn, your one-eyed jacks and kings, your variable eddies of buoyant meta-ramps. We are family. We're a shady pack. I mark your haunts. I release trickles of nymphed-up dust onto your skin and stuff, a rampant gathering of intelligence. Oh, what quality info. My nerves swan existence in membrane so black that you experience waves of smut and flux wherever you go. Wherever I surface, you accumulate depth. A fly rolls up in me and spreads. The nicest buzz disturbs your edges. I admit, I get a rush from any nasty thing and come up shivering, inexact, an overblown, bloated supremo on my protein pink bed. Such a fine environment for alteration and injury. So fluent and trespassing. And of course, dark. We don't even have to touch or talk. I'll let you watch as you merge and swell, become my little animal. Thank you so much.
Too far away.
We have room up here too.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to read some of this, but I want to have to give shout outs to Eli, who midwifed this entire project into being like good at everything.
Everyone download the app. It's free.
Free.
Yeah, it's free.
So,
Power on poetry.
it's an interactive app that I'm hoping to recreate a little bit through this reading. So, here it goes. The yellow wind found inside thunder. She tasted metal, filled her mouth with it, and felt the mix in the plating and the dark iron revealed beneath. She carried about herself a netting of never needing to be brave. She was small enough to others that she was a membrane containing a drop of blood. Over the mud ridged with trampling, they spread unnervingly fat and flat straw. There was no room for whimsy around time. It was too important to defend/investigate history, to believe anything happened in the first place. Everything shrank into such swarming, incomprehensible multitudes that every hybrid became purely itself. They do not use combustion at all, they shoot arrows. Though we try to teach them the importance of temperature remains, the importance of intimacy is not, though they stoop over their products and food. I mention my condition until no one can help me. Then I am meant to exist quietly. Most times I find the examination of systems to be soulless, too zoomed out and oblivious. I have been conditioned by anger, disapproval. I want a clean life, the way they say things should be clean, eternal, and unembarrassing. I am addicted to the turning over and over, flipping out beauty for a game. The torn limb in my automaton's mouth is small and brown, capped by a small hoof, shiny as a dancing shoe. No synthetics have the compressed look of jagged, unearthed materials. Money provoked strength, so they grew strong, amassed in the abstract, small, wet pellets, and crowded them together in compartments, their shamans. They do not understand the image of a small girl in a bright red hooded cape, but they can understand the significance of her churning legs, that her legs are bare, cold in the dark of some woods. We don't know what they make of that. Unlike the bird fallen on the cement, head gyrating, beak gargling, my head is round and refilled and twists on with pleasurable solidity. I have a plump, shiny plate. She becomes like a very small doll, photographed against a white space that prints her the size of a pinky finger. A cancer once pinked and pitted my breast the way time pitted the stone of those ancient figurines. We taught them that in even the most minuscule separation of sand, a path is revealed. That in traveling between the spark and the ancient light of the smallest star, we cannot find objectivity. And in this way, they determined that there was one consideration. Why do you speak? To be heard or to heal? Some find it unbearable that animals befriend and willingly provide for us. When an animal king visits with a gift, some grab the stag's offering with one hand and with the other kill him for cooking. The bearer is always a good. Okay, so I'm going to have two poems that are going to be read by my text-to-speech friend. His name is George.
Lighter hunger. In the few seconds it takes to watch a horse with its neck snapped in half, head bouncing along its withers as it careens down a mountainside. In the few seconds it takes to feel a deep regret. In the few seconds it takes to forget the creature altogether when the lights flare their cones from above. Pleasure made up of leisure and shame, like slicing tubes widthwise for biscuits. The costumes of capability differences give a soap, and astringent squeak of lack in other tastes. Another preferred technique, opening up the insides under lamps to scrape away webbing from the night-grown flesh and rind. Not holograms, but the quivering hiddens that had pulsed and chewed in the underground of the internal. Or another, studying how armpit spicy radishes get pulled up under spotlights, glowing white from their black burials. And still others, a great pail of milk flecked around the edges with vivid grass clippings, premature young lane deflated atop surgical napkins, paper thin tissue torn at by water droplets. Interval. The deciduous holy. The fantastical violence of their myths became more attainable as their system's sophisticated order. Their data is their story, but they had no projections of themselves, no one to build a fiction of their memories. The moon made jewels, but they could not quite archive its light. Tattered lumps of sky kept slipping into the sea. Actually, the feeling of leaving is not transcendence, but breathing in sharp stars, filling the body with spikes of pain. Did they need symbols? This they eventually reached as a question to ponder. The small passwords and the colossal stone simulate growth. Over every intention the visor of ambition. They were carefully socialized to be magnanimous, to find the single bird in its cage after the death of its mate and kill it, finding the left behind unbearable. And the lights went out. It was so dim and difficult in the way that used to enrage us. The nighttime blindness was not from exhaustion or poverty, but power. They overcame. All differences were differences in power.
I think this is my last one. Yes. We can only shine where there is light. The stitches holding together the thick seams puckered the skin, and they liked to bring their tongue to the rusty smell of healing. They liked especially to invert the knots and clean out the folds. Somewhere vinegary clouds and sulphurous winds. On the inside, stiff crinkled organs that slid against each other, but they stuck in anyway. They just wanted to enter, to become enclosed within the famous textile of muscles. No cups came that bloomed into giant queens, but they grew the collar, cuffs, and hem of bearing themselves. They eventually grew so small, they lived embedded in the walls of cetacean lungs. Lacking both curiosity and fear, none of them jostled to be the last to die. Nothing snapped cleanly, instead was twisted apart as the fibers held their strength. In the woods, we began to see babies left lying in the needles, turning their heads to stare up at us as we came upon them. All of us who survived by letting others tell, providing inquiry for others' pleasure and providing answers. We lasted the longest, pressing buttons.
Andrew, tell them what they want. How do they get to the app?
So if you go to my website, undergo.com, there's like a link to the Android and the iOS version of the app that you can download.
Also, there's an IG to follow called Power on Poetry.
Yes.
So you should be able to get it through that app, just like, being your manager.
Thank you.
Wow, that was really great. Both of you, when does a machine decide or determine what word or what parts of a word to inflect? That's really interesting. Anyway, so maybe we'll take a short break and then we'll come back with another group of readers. Lot49 has beverages in the back, alcoholic and non-alcoholic. So that's there. And we'll return, I don't know, in like 5 or 10 minutes. That sounds okay.
Can I borrow your height book? I've been looking at it this whole time. Like, yeah. The tall one, yeah. Hey, thanks for putting this on.
Yeah.
What is your name? Adam. Thank you so much for your help with that. Appreciate
Yeah, you can grab that or like.
So what do you? I'm Adrian from the London.
Sure. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Minneapolis.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but every time I go inside,
Yeah.
it's so hot. You want
Yeah. 4.5 years. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. Thanks for putting this together. I'm sure
I don't know why I asked that.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry.
Or Venmo, else I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
It's
PayPal.
like-
This goes to you?
It does.
Okay, good.
I'm just curious.
Give me.
So what? I'm from outside of Philly, actually.
Okay. I've been
Oh, where? South Philly?
mostly west and north.
Yeah, I used to live in West Philly. I know it. Where else are you?
I lived off Peak Sussex for a while. Years ago.
Hey, I was wondering if you have anything non-alcoholic.
I do. I so that's good. I also have larger
Have you watched this red?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, and Taylor's like, I know, and then you try to get some. I know, I was trying to. Really wanted
We just got in today, and with the operating system, the two people who just started. Yeah, so, no, just supporting.
Where'd you go?
Brooklyn. Yeah. So,
Another sprawling.
yeah, thank you. Cheers. It's a real cute spot. Very. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Look at How long have y'all been here?
So again,
How long have y'all been here?
like mid-November.
Okay. Oh,
So,
sweet.
yeah, it's been,
Yeah,
since then.
good morning.
I started like selling with apartments like the year before that. But
Okay.
Yeah, it's like, it's 9 to 5.
So this is like your endeavor?
Saturday.
yeah.
Congrats.
And then the guy that did shop flowers.
Oh, yeah. Good.
There's like a day, and it's cheap, but also this is.
Yeah, my family was looking to do that.
Anyone who's walking off the street, this is like totally.
You know, they've always done like music, like for art stuff.
I just grabbed the fucking bag, I was like, okay, there's no
Yeah.
here.
You get
So
it,
anyone
yeah.
can-
Totally.
yeah, but
I was
anyone
reading
can take
fucking,
one of my lanyards,
for
just
like
stick it
any-
under your shirt and walk it out. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
have a whole bunch if you need a person.
Like, I'm trying to, like,
I used to.
I've got good friends that work at City Lights.
Oh, yeah?
So, I know that was a huge deal recently.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beautifully.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I was way.
And did so much
Yeah.
during that life. Yeah. I'm Constantine, by the way.
True.
Drew, nice to meet you. Yeah, where? Tennessee.
More me if I need.
Close enough.
Yes, right.
Not at all. But I have never been to Philly
Okay.
before today. Today's my first day. So, yeah,
What's your first time?
really love it.
Okay.
Yeah, really love it. It's like a proper city. I'm sure with its own bullshit, but without like New York's bullshit. So
Yeah,
I appreciate
you
that.
guys are setting us up.
I'm sure. Yeah.
No, there's been a big influx of like, just which I mean, it's been good for the shop. Like, a lot of people like walk around.
You want to know, it's like first shop day, you're really excited.
Sorry, I don't want to be offensive. But it's a good place.
There's very little touch right
Yeah.
now. Sorry.
It seems like it.
No, it's just different.
Do you have any more of the census?
Yeah. If not, we have like.
Maybe just have some of the.
Do you love the like overall tech process situation? So cute. I sent you the picture. You can cut.
Whatever you want.
I only have
Oh, yeah.
so you could. I'm sorry? Yeah. Yeah. New York. I haven't seen like any of these things.
Yeah, yeah.
How do I pronounce this? Well,
Do you want me to put stuff behind the counter for you too?
DVR list is so big in my bedroom, it's just like, do I need more books? And the answer is yes, I know it is.
That's true. Maybe the industry, like you said. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny doing this because like there's just always stuff coming in.
Like in the mail, I got a bundle of 10 chapters.
Well, at least they're small.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm going, yeah, thinking that these two now. Cool. I'll leave that. Yeah, so I got the prints there. That's okay. We did a more retail shopper. The stuff with yeah, I did it with oh, cool. Yeah. She's really honestly I've never met her. So cool. I didn't know Bogart had a press. She's like, I'm going down upstairs. What's that? Oh, really? So Aaron runs so lucky to do a great bag, but he also has like two sub co-workers, one called Pat, co-work after dark, which is fucking phenomenal. The show that is outstanding. And then he's got like a sports related one, which is like not my bag, like the artist of the school. So Aaron Burke and then
There's something that do like. Yeah.
Is it helpful? Is it helpful for you to like put one in or just like bump?
Yeah.
45-30. Oh my lord, 4 more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We emailed a little bit.
It's like anti-Roman thing where there's 30 grinders over and now and I'm like one of them got invited to do it. So like South Josh I looked up with my grinding going reading one
You wanted to do
I think it's just is there one here tomorrow? I think he's
I think rejection center is Jordan. I wanted to use something that's cool. With like so what do you think that means like not just honestly yeah.
Like the thing that if you just find people on Instagram and like there's not really a position poll like invite them if they want to publish it. Where I think it's most yeah.
Yeah. And it's like
oh my god. Yeah, I love it. No, it has to be. You all have a suggested donation.
I do, yeah. It's like Yeah, I think that's that's pretty good. Yeah. Maybe he only picks up of.
Okay, yeah. I think the next.
You read all of it.
Okay.
There should be one.
I want to do a version of it. Yeah. You can switch it out. Yeah, I feel like someone else needs Everyone's outside. No, it's not that. All of us. Before we started, we did like outside and then they're there like. Like my friends, they don't come up on my Facebook.
Yeah.
Outsiders, we're starting to read it. Did you see the we love you and bye. There's drinking, but there's also like accessibility details and things. There's also.
Oh, good.
I think we're gonna resume now. All right, I think we'll get started. Also, there's plenty of room up front if you'd like. So we're gonna do a group of 3 readers next. I will start, and following me will be Danika, Stegman, LeMay, and then Eli Moss. I guess I just want to dedicate whatever it is I'm going to read to all the friends I've met today, and the friends that I've had for a while. I do want to maybe specifically dedicate what I'm going to read to my one-time virtual friend, but now real-life friend, Austin Carter, who edits a really wonderful journal called Sage Road. And this is journal. Lullaby chimes for a kiss trapped in my lungs. Send respiration into a coffee language. Must try for pauses. The suspicious instances of gone most arrivals. I have that itch again, and I smoke near the hearth, wearing my striped sweater, stuffing also at a cough drop. My mind is free, firing menthol into my eyes to combat the combustion I feel against words. Each of my words dwindles its inheritance. In whose state am I your summer monolith? Singed chrysalis sign the rune of blind monarchs into swine etiquette. The pious posture of wallow and wilt inaugurates my sprawling of narrative debt. The dehumanized is all too human, and I am a part of you, ineligible to be loved. My entrances are a revolving door. The muse enters without the mantle of her matriarchal melos. The momentum teases the simultaneous exit. My sick lips are inoculated and shocked into an audition for you. That's audition. Mine is the form that crisis takes. The hearth is warm with harm and outfitted with the nearest shape of a sorrow. Imagine a throw rug decorated with the teardrops of kindling. Imagine androgynous exhaust performing ballets up the chimney. Imagine the concierge counting the revolutions of your undying denouement. What is the plot of the Inferno ceremony? Who is there to worship now that you've been let out by Big Cupid's arrow? Imagine an encounter that goes unreported by language. Big Cupid is Mina Lloyd, for anyone who's interested. The Bowery Bumps.
Every day, please.
And I'll just read one more. If anyone cares, I have a book coming out. These two things are the end.
No more self-deprecation. Love and hope.
This is where it comes from. But thank you. This is id before the ego, but it's actually just called id. Recover me lapse in plurals, pauper umbilical floss and torch cranium, trepidation body, lunge for your lack. I was starting to say against need, again gaining against, pronouncing surgeries of parentheses, light he craves, contained, contrasaid, contrary, pray, be provident, your tallow where I am rendered. Was I so shadowing with your watch? The lapse is a mantis of my candlelight, throwing shades. Never I was as athlete for longevity. Pelvis rituals and the such. Nay, I was extinguishing, blazing, betraying the still. Rhapsode of vaults and loss, lapsing, fleeing multiple operations. I glister and dim when you happen. That is where we last left me. Spinning your sub-empty drink. I wasn't the last where we are everlast vanishing. 6 minutes remaining, 5 minutes behind. Lest you forget, wax on the wane. Let it be, that will do. The lapse is in the furthering or forgotten. Not know yet. His siege beats in evening. Bone weary. He improperly interpret me. I've had for it. It's not respite again. As soon as was not so precise after you possessed it. It was over, it ended then the end anew. Immoral imprecision, welcome him to now, is it? Moment wrench wins, a moment as old as it was. In my head, I have a thought of moths drowned in cooling tissue. It is a fountain that rises from the weeds, conveying the delicate flame, sourceless and injured. We wander most magnificent fields that way. Go ahead, let it go. The fields are lawning from you. The lapse is the difference between them, yard and lead. Now and then I offer mine from the weed. Good, this gets longer. I'm inciting, cope just to make me so. Stoop down, pluck white clovers awry. Now and then some I amass, but moltenly. Mine was I so solution. Give way to clipped wings. You weep, you reap, you till. Unsteady threads disarray the shorn. I'm lapsed in the cups. Somewhere you are, I'm missing. Content in the expanse, repeating our dissolve. Give me the span of diminishing. More will come when he is decisively doused. The lapse is in the grounds. Friday night bright, dawning wrist. You need 2 hands for 12 and 6. Where I am waterless, sourceless, clockless, you watch. Drawing what warmth from pigment flame, I ask you by Chile. From mine, nothing you gain. I'm everything he incisions. The streets is wilderness, but there is no streets in the wilderness. That's you, that's me, stray. Leech of you like a bed sore. Gone long, God bed. Gone wisps ago. Still lots more to work on. But with his patience, where it limb is not. My wrist limping. See in the dark. The waiting moth belongs to both of us. I was gypsy around the skull, enjoying nature. The blues of locomotives, whence meadows roared your milky horizon. Shadows enjoying the massive. That's when I cried the light. Blossom, my little natural world, when he is nocturned in somnolence. Looking from his window, worrying about the aches, tinkling his liquors away. So many beautiful stars. My head's on fire for your lantern, spinning silk. Lower carbon mix metaphor dioxide. Your decision I abide. To blend the door to the shed creaks open. I know better by the sweet, sweet lament of hinges. Every now and then a gust shuts it, being vulnerable to its structure. Entrails forming now. Black mourner's gown. Soul ascending smoke. The lapse is in voluptuous blaze. He worries, his length of worries. Cicadas meet. Their call is the boundary. He goes away, I grow back. In spite of the sky, despite the stillness that permits the match. Hard for him. Lit and sower person. Labored for I too harvested. Lapses a plot of distance. The mind crawls in sexual evenings of waning moon. Tufts of grass conquer gloss. I might, devoured by light. I disobey the flame. Apologetically, I would say. The horse tramples cerebrum pasture. You are cruel with the lash. It brings me to tears. I lift them as they rain before I rend. Good, this goes on. Lasting, it surges. I candle crop and long cannibal grazing. Your tractor blades make the most oppressive lines. I'm impressed. It was from you I borrowed the motility of grids. I feel it 6 and natal, my death drive of a tractor. fatal steed of thirst, parts of the hide plunge to the earth, earthmare, lapsed surfaces, his head begs the plinian of me, but orderly, orderly. Once enough till it isn't he, who will be worsted. How about us both, the worst of us both? Once enough because it once was. Settle ever, mental settlements, landmines. You cultivated my innocence, forged it, needed it. Relax, relapse, dying into you, cache of hardened wax. Thank you, and Danika, STEGEMAN, LEMAY.
Thank you, Jared. What is your book called?
The animal to the forest.
The Animal of Existence. Okay, I'm gonna read some poems from my book Pilot, and then I'll read you a few new poems. So probably the only thing you need to know about Pilot is that it's a book of eraser poems that I wrote mostly from transcriptions of episodes of the TV show Lost. Confidence, man. We come out of the ocean naked, arms out, like it was an accident. We noticed everyone is watching. We've got worse things to fear than what's in the jungle. The cool scrape of light, splinters between the sheets. Snap. We're in the wild now. Breathe in slowly. I know you want my hard dollar cosmos. You sneak around like an empty jar. Been telling you since day one, if the tables were turned, I'd watch you. Some of the poems I wrote with a computer application choosing the words from the scripts for me, and this is one of those poems. It's the same script that I just read you, but like the machine version. Machine, confidence man. I call you witness, flare figure, night struck, darkness destroyed. I know you. I have watched over you. I see you breathing. Listen as the jungle enters, an empty place split from giving. Explore to keep you, to cover you in years. But understand the day changes fast. It's just order. Meet the moment, shout through everything. Turn to kiss it hard. Raised by another, unraveling. Our hands are all bloody. The trees are shaking. I have this dream. I'm sinking. People come and go, but I don't. Something's out of focus in the foreground. There's a sound like what the plane might have sounded like when it was crashing. Something silvery, like a knife. I'm out here looking for danger. It's not about what's going to happen or how to live. It's not about what I need. Adrift. To revive a floodlight. The wreckage starts in shouting distance. You made me fire. I made you fire. As far as I know, the world is still there. You take a bullet I didn't ask for. I know you. You're carrying something. Easy, easy. We're caught. How long have you been here? We were in a plane crash. It's going to break us. I'll just stop bleeding then. Could the record reflect this is for you? That simulated sun on the water. This is the last one I'll read from Pilot. abandoned. We run through the jungle at night in the rain. You stumble and go down. I half carry you. I'm afraid we stopped being the site of the accident and started being the harm. There's a sound when I put my arms around you. Nightmare of flowers. We could be animals. We could be anywhere at any time. We're practically strangers. For all I know, you could be some freak. I didn't ask you to follow me. Read a poem called Then Beetlejuice Reappears. I made a video poem of this. This poem's gonna come out in Apartment Journal soon, and then I'll post the video poem on YouTube after. Then Beetlejuice reappears. Then I'm not sure what time we're living. Then I read Fire on the Lake as a premonition of our estrangement from place. Then Beetlejuice vanishes. Then Beetlejuice reappears. Then Beetlejuice vanishes, and I know the face of the merciless universe. Then my eyes are inflamed, and I can't see. My lenses contain a polymer that scrapes. Then you hand me a tissue to blot my fluorescent tears. Then I know, in the many worlds theory, we've met and unmet across countless collapsible card tables. Then I fall into a pizzula, which means I can't stop listening to Elliott Smith sing pizzula, sing, I'm not half what I wish I was. Then I don't want to be touched. Then I want to touch everything, to consume everything before me like fire, to make everything possible mine. Then I know I am a pantophagist, eater of worlds. Then I spend the morning throwing sticks to the river. Then I imagine their end, exposed as wood that's harbored water. Then I think today is the last day of April. This one is called Quantum Entanglement. I wrote it on the winter solstice, and it has the second sentence is a line from Midwinter Day by Bernadette Mayer. Quantum entanglement. An object can be moved or changed without being physically touched. Unscrew the bolts, the whole thing like a pin. This is action at a distance. I ignite. I forget my intent. I strike a match and leave the book unfolded. I open the window to let the air out. I remove my animal from the room. Stepping outside elicits audible disgust. It's a medicine that doesn't work. Snow turns to vapor before my eyes. A hand materializes in mine, then disappears. The fog's density fluctuates depending on my proximity to bodies of water. I feel what moves beneath the ice. I see a small white plane overhead. I leave my demon in the woods. It walks too tall with antlers pinioning. The trees creak. Cirrus clouds and the cacophony of birds stop abruptly as I draw near. Today I feel like galaxies. I wish for what's mine. Hunger is a kind feeling. I take a sharp paring knife, score a crosshatch pattern, half an inch deep. I wish for a field as its own physical entity. I wish for instantaneous action, not propagating time. I wish to be felt as a force by other charges carrying momentum. Some days I have images with no words. I say, I feel it in my bones. You say, the two particles are bound. A change to one instantaneously changes the other in the same way, even when the particles are separated by unimaginable distances. Dirt, holding hands with dirt. Float above a fathomless abyss of black water. This is the tube that connects the hearing part to the heart. that listens to the heart. We disengage from recording unfaced creatures. Stay where you are.
Steven Alvarez is supposed to be reading. He's at the other reading. He just sent me pictures, but it's amazing. And I'm just like, you're getting keys. Okay. Okay, so hi, I'm Eli Moss. I'm also the founder of the operating system, and I'm so grateful to Jared and to Jared for having me here. Thank you so much, Lot49, fucking accountability. Thank you. This is a new piece. It's coming out in the new Note Year, which is a water issue. And it's called St. Vixen. There's also an image. St. Vixen. The sea doesn't speak commodity. Ask kin if you are beautiful, and you will think you haven't received an answer if you are waiting for the language it's time to leave behind, for the compost to take into its hot, generous belly and transmute into the beginnings of rural growth. Toddler species, clucks cattail, step off the shore and wash. Let algae, ray, and oyster have a look at you without eyes until you've loosed the lenses you don't remember putting on, and weep for what you came so close to losing, until it's unclear what you're swimming in, until your tongue meets new words for this world and your body. Sepexin, footnote 1.
Sepexin is a Lenape word for the distance across the water, or as far as the water goes. These lines find their ground in the bays and waters around what's now called New York, Brooklyn, the unceded territory of the Munsee and Canarsie Lenape people. The plants and species here are not abstractions, but the specific and vital intelligence of this place, stewarded by its original peoples. Source, Lenape Talking Dictionary 2022.
Ask kin if you are beautiful. Footnote 2.
Quote, grammar is how we chart relationship with language, writes Robin Wall Kimmerer. Just as it would when used to refer to another person, she argues that, quote, using it for the other 8.7 million species with whom we share the planet absolves us of moral responsibility and opens the door to exploitation, unquote. She adds that, quote, among the many examples of linguistic imperialism, perhaps none is more pernicious than the replacement of the language of nature as subject with the language of nature as object, unquote. She proposes a new pronoun from ki, signifying a being out of the earth, taken from the Anishinaabe word, kin. Source, nature needs a new pronoun, in Yes Magazine, March 30, 2015.
Into the beginnings of rural growth. Footnote 3.
Quote, ecologists use the term ruderal from the Latin rudus, rubble, to describe disturbance-adapted species. Ruderal species embody the unruly, tenacious, and opportunistic qualities of vegetation. They're metaphorically paradoxical, indexing catastrophe and abandonment, yet conversely representing resilience and renewal. Source in Rural Aesthetics from Sarah Cowles, lead at Rural, based in Sibylle, Georgia.
Toddler species, clucks, cattail. Footnote 4.
Cattail is a native perennial plant which forms dense colonies in wet soil and which is commonly seen along shorelines of both fresh and brackish water. It offers multiple traditional medicinal uses. A blood cleanser, it can be ingested for menstrual pain and to stop internal bleeding, and its pollen can be applied to wounds. Mash roots become a topical poultice for anything from stings to blisters and infections, and the flower becomes a tea for intestinal issues. Its roots can be boiled and eaten or pounded into a flour. The narrowleaf cattail, Typha angustifolia, is salt tolerant, more likely to be found along the bays abutting the Atlantic. Multiple sources, traditional medicinal applications from a conversation with Curtis Zunika, co-director of the Lenape Center for the Columbia Nursing School, 2021.
Algae, ray, and oyster. Footnote 5.
Except on the most bitter cold of days, Pier 4 of the Brooklyn Army Terminal is full of fisher people, and their catches are visible on the bloodstained slats. They complain across languages, Chinese and Spanish mostly, about the prevalence of sharks, sandbar, sand tiger, and scalloped hammerhead babies mostly. Although after a storm, even bass can become plentiful. Success here is inextricable from an intense inhabited awareness of conditions, species, and each other. Frequently, counters rays lay face down on the picnic tables. The rays in turn feed on the clams, oysters, and other invertebrates, the brackish waters in and around New York City Bay. Sunset Park is south enough of Manhattan that the island is relegated to the distance, a right-hand glance easily and skillfully dwarfed by the scale of sky and water. Multiple sources, artists' own notes, and research.
Thank you. I just want to thank C. Constantine Jones for reading my footnotes. So we were just talking about the fact that we chose to go to AWP in San Antonio and basically the week before COVID started, which was kind of a questionable thing. And we were supposed to have like a 25-person reading at this amazing gallery in San Antonio, the Sala Diaz, and we were just remembering, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. We were so angry for so many reasons. I said to the audience, will you say this thing with me? And they remembered that this happened. What I asked them to say with me is, fuck this shit. And we said it so loud, and my friend's parents were there. They had received all our books, and they screamed it loudest. I'm like, fuck this shit. And they said it so loud until I was like, oh, we should do that again today. Will you say it with me? I really just really like you to say that with me, because, you know, I went back to Pratt. I'm teaching. I'm fucking like being... Like I've been an adjunct for 20 years. Whoa. 20 years! Fuck this shit, right? Fuck that shit. Thank you. Fuck that shit. So for whatever it is that, whatever way that you're being exploited, that keeps you from doing the things that you want to do, for whatever way that you're trying to just like enact fugitive practice, I would just like you to fucking say this with me, will you? I would love it. Fuck this shit! Thank you very much. Okay. So because I'm technically reading not for myself, but for Black Sunlit, I'm going to read this piece that came out in this wonderful, beautiful Black Sunlit publication, which is Vestiges, number 5. Look, Unai, memory is more. And my piece here is Heteroglossolalia, forked tongues and kryptonite. There's so many footnotes. I'm not going to read it. I do a lot of footnotes because, like, what the fuck is like scholarly? Freshman Common Experience Library Orientation. Begin the lesson by having students ask each other, what is research? Oracle at Mountain View, already, number 2. See Pythia de Dona de Dema, Crona Face de los Vagina. Hear ye the disclaimer. Visions may be the result of breathing in hydrocarbon gases emitted from a fissure in the earth and may be unintelligible. We recommend only consulting the Oracle on certain days of the year, ideally the warmest. This may not be your day. Tribute is highly recommended. We endorse impossible foods, tea, and the vegan alternatives in lieu of oxen, goats, and or sheep. Liquid offerings are also accepted. You will find Soylent and Temple turmeric products for sale using this. What should my resting heart weight be? What should I eat? What should I eat for dinner? What should I major in? What should I make for dinner? What should I do? How should I know if I have a staph infection? How do I get a passport? How do I get home? How do I look up? How do I contact Uber? How do I love feed? What might Why might my throat be closing? Why my dog be throwing up? Why might my dog not be eating? Why might my period be late? Why might my poop be green? Why might my hair be growing out? What causes a metallic taste in the mouth? What causes a stroke? What causes a UTI? What causes a sty? What causes a yeast infection? What causes a heart attack? Telling the difference between a panic attack and a heart attack, telling the difference between male and female puppies, telling the difference between indica and sativa, telling the difference between allergies and a cold, telling the difference between gold and pirate, telling the difference between bug bites in the couch, we know. Okay, sanitization, classified information, secrecy, protection, sensitive information, data, anonymization, encryption. Data remanence is the residual representation of digital data that remains even after attempts have been made to remove or erase the data. This residue may result from data being left intact by a nominal file deletion operation by reformatting of storage media that does not remove data previously written to the media, or through physical properties of the storage media that allow previously written data to be recorded. Data remanence may make inadvertent disclosure of sensitive information possible should the storage media be released into an uncontrolled environment, i.e. thrown into the trash or lost. You're unlikely to find me here. Various techniques have been developed to counter data remanence. These techniques are classified as clearing, purging, sanitizing, or destruction. Specific methods include overwriting, degaussing, decryption, and media destruction. This map of the ocean, figure 1, is just an empty square. For all of you got that reference. Over the summer, the freshmen have been tasked with reading 2 books, Colson Whitehead's Colossus of New York and Perret's Species of Spaceships and Other Stories. Some young people sit at the front of the room and make insightful comments about why one might use taxonomy to describe places of the body. Why Perrec begins his book with a cheeky map of the ocean, a blank square he's taken in turn from Lewis Carroll. Even though no one is watching or noticing but me, and young masculine presenting student sits to the side of the room, exaggerating boredom. When we entered the room, the tables and chairs weren't set up, and there was dust everywhere from construction over the summer. This is classic Pratt, literally like the building's falling apart. The students helped each other clear and wipe down space. A femme wearing a cross and a femme who takes out wipes from her bag with labeling in Hebrew pitch to clean the tables and sit together. The bored one pulls his table aside, a single chair for himself, and sits while everyone else sets up the room. He helps no one. I wonder what sort of pain he is in. And fight my impulse to be angry, frustrated, hoist gendered arguments on what's happening. He is working so hard not to care. We've had a library session and we're talking about the provenance of evidence, about authority, and about types of guidebooks in relationship to these two. These aren't my students for the year. It's just a one-day workshop, so I contain the volcano and I keep it brief, keep alarm to a minimum. Don't get into what's erased as much as written as the patriarchies therein. We don't talk about Caliban and the witch and proto-capitalist witch hunts. We don't talk about Wiseman's forensic architecture deciphering in Gaza, nor with the palimpsest of spaces on maps leaves in its wake. I'm not sure either of these books of Western men has undone this, despite the seeming phenomenological troubling our classrooms so apparently enjoy. C'est bon, cette plenary, these arms who descent, how it is but an ultra to present unless Fremont Fraiche with crinkly elusive authority as they lead, but no doubt they lead your tour. Despite yourself, you too still home towards the board like a viral infection, even after all these years of Ansel Dua. Caminante no puentes, not se hace puentes a andar. My body and its qualities have existed between the lines for so many years, recalling the silences, the redacted capacity for joy that is the hallmark of my maternal line that I fight with my therapist about how useful the language he uses for emotion can be, even for me. I read myself like vocabulary seen but unheard, mispronounced, and full of invented inference. I don't know what you mean when you say anger, I explain. And he defines anger as anger, then rage. I say, we have to be able to use words that aren't synonyms to discuss
concepts like these, come around at them sideways if we aren't going to try to use a thing to define itself, which seems to defeat and undermine your intentions here. And then I start to get flustered because we are spending time I count in dollar signs, arguing semantics, while he gets offended and tries to pretend he isn't, while remarking that I seem to be triggered with the situation. I know you're surprised that he linked it back to my mother. Yes, I say. Remembering a previous practitioner who inspired a poem called "My Therapist Gives Me Financial Advice," telling me things about grant funding she found online while the minutes and dollars ticked away. I made a half joke, which is really, are you fucking serious, about therapists and the mother trope? And he is defensive about there's truth, where that came from. And by this time, I'm the kid in the corner rolling his eyes at another lecture I've heard before. I want the freedom to carve and chisel my own face, to staunch the bleeding with ashes, to fashion my own gods out of my entrails. Yes, I say. But what I try to explain is that the yes is that I am indeed triggered, and that the trigger is not the mother trope, but the repeat performance of another room that I am paying to be in, while I try to patch the brokenness with melted gold and become a bionic invalid, while l'homme in cette realm projects their hurt ego onto my failure to be pliant and grateful in the face of the great wisdom being gifted at a state speed. I do this as nicely as I can. Can we get a paper towel up here? Countering how much I get healed from not bottling things up anymore, with the awareness that this is, though expensive, one of the more promising practitioners I've worked with, and it will do me no good to anger him to an extent that our next sessions will be a performance of how not effective he was by our time together today. And I'll have to, again, breathe this with the appreciation I've already begrudgingly attempted to apply as salve to this mouse. This last half hour will frame my nervous system, spiking the hypervigilance I'm supposed to be in these sessions to learn how to control and hopefully move away from, and last in my body for over a week. It is with some nausea and yes, begrudgingly, that I then know the pain and hours later than I usually spend it. It doesn't want to let me send it without some message or note, and I have nothing to say that would fit into the aphorism if say nothing at all. I use the thumbs up emoji, which I know full well is subtle shade, at least in the languages I speak. He may miss this code switch entirely, not be versed in my tones and timbres, but isn't this how this all began? My heart is racing, my veins are on fire, my lungs pulling thin and struggling air, but there's some justice in this hand symbol beyond dictionaries that I'm able to put in a locket for safekeeping to give Beckett when they're older. Gauss, standard of data destruction. The guaranteed form of hard drive erasure. Using the right degausser will guarantee that your information is no longer retrievable. If there's no trace at all, it's like you never even happened, like an empty map of the ocean. Bridges with human names linked to the trace. Drones programmed in this region far enough away to not quite register their existence on the screen. We'll take the survey today during the drought. See, no water anywhere. How about that? We found the answers we'd come here determined to find. This is Truthy time. Hello from the other side. No, I don't know. I'm not timing. This is your time.
I'm not either, so it's entirely.
Yeah, do the
you.
one.
All right, I have one. Okay, so this I made a book. It's Sweet and Low. It came out in 2020, and then we dove into the nothingness. I have these on my table. Oh, I also have, like, if anyone wants to do this, I have a workbook. It's called Collaborative Precarious Body Tracking. And that's at the table too. A lot of the lessons that I was trying to sort of teach through the operating system, I was like, why isn't this working for people? And I was like, oh, we're actually too traumatized to do things that we really like. So everyone's just gonna hold it at an arm's length and be like, I love that, and I can't. And then I was like, oh, I think I have to do trauma work instead. So then I did trauma work. And so come and get the notebook. It's, you know, it's stuff you can do at home alone when no one's watching.
Table 521.
Oh, I don't even know. So, okay, I'm just gonna do one piece. Thank you again for listening. All right.
This is a piece called In Memory of Feasible Grace. It vaguely is, it references a book from the architect, the sort of futurist architect Paolo Soleri. And here's a quote from him. Aesthetogenesis, a process generating a reality in which all components, besides being the means to the self-revelation achievement, are also ends to themselves, the meaning of self-revelation, a final state of grace that only the mind can generate via evolution. I am the urban mutant, inextricable from this place. 4 generations before me, strap hanging when there were straps. Piecework and factory wages in this teeming, seething anthill, where bodies exposed to high temperatures become diamonds if they survive, visible only if you get far enough away. We are knit of the same fabric, its materials, my materials, its pressures, my native tongue, but the city too is not itself, was never a thing. And so you cannot be the city even though you are. Since you cannot be the city, you cannot be. Just don't think too hard about it and just keep moving. If you're lucky, a trickster bard will get you a good deal on a place in Brooklyn, not far from train, bathroom and hall, cozy, good light, good credit, only no guarantors, nice girls only, please, haha, just kidding, except not, except we were serious, except read between the lines. No one puts what's really happening on paper here. Anyone with power learns that earlier. If your parents never had any, good luck with that. There's no distribution center. Just figure out how you need to dress. What armor you need, where to pass unnoticed, taking furious notes. Sometimes passing unnoticed means your clothes will be loud. These are not the same silences. Survival is the hottest game in town. Every awning says original raise. Yes, the signs can just say best pizza, even though it isn't. You're catching on. Surprisingly, sometimes the best way to camouflage oneself is to stick with the herd. Uroplatys gecko, willow tarpon, toad, common barren caterpillar, Topodesirus, chilternity, stone flounder, great blue katydid. In the insect world, these are often not seen, especially if you're a hungry hunter. For 250 million years, insects have survived because they often appear to be something other than what they really are. Is it a bug, a twig, or a leaf? Is that butterfly the bitter tasting one, or the delicious one that resembles it? Here we are, the Thracian girl laughing when we thought we would be the philosopher, but fuck, who wants to be down a well? Look at the stars alone in your room, on your phone, so that no one sees you falter. Cry because they shine so brightly. Whisper their names under your breath, or louder if you can stand it. Eridani, Akamar, the ostrich, Alex, the furrow, end of river, Cassiopeia, Erkid, Taurus, I, Aculus, Boreas, Lyra, Alphafar, the talons of the swooping eagle. Alvida, Lucidi, Apidi, brightest of the town. Sing a song to Ursa Major, Arundhati, Alcor, Suha, the neglected one, the shards of Arabic on your tongue, mispronounced as unfamiliar as these galaxies, and yet as comforting. The city sits on top of the city, which sits on top of the city, which sits on top of the city, and it cannot ever not be a collision. A sordid density where a dream calls itself a power bottom, and sometimes it is, sometimes it actually enjoys it, sometimes amongst the shut-eyed abandon. Sometimes it remembers itself dream. Sometimes my valuable body believes in love. Thank you. Tell you. Well, thank you.
Wow, thank you to Danika and also Eli. And everyone for being here with us. Something about excess and exhaustion that's really fascinating. But also, you know, what is experience isn't a problem. So we'll maybe take a short break, and you can have whatever you have, and that's the finale. I think Stephen Alvarez and a few others from 1111 Press will be reading. So stick around if you can, and we'll return in like 10 minutes or so.
I got a place. I got a guy.
I want to put some money in, but all I have I'm not so worried about. Well, I'll tell you, we need ones at the bank, so I don't know if you guys need ones here, but I'm happy to throw 10 in. Are you cool with that? Andrew, well, I'm with a lot of women friends, so Andrew's from Minneapolis. A couple days ago. Yeah, it's been great.
When they did Zoom, they got like a giant screen, probably the size of this feeling. It was, and I was, so it was like overpowering. It was overwhelming.
Yeah, I like going to watch it tomorrow too.
Yeah, but the people were so much taller. Giant. Giant.
Yeah, but I like going to.
You know what's so no, it almost felt like there was a.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out, there's like some weird
Maybe Wes didn't come up with.
Maybe it's because I just went to the right whole person. Where it's like that. I used to. Because I went to a million years ago. Oh my god. And I used to have a small line of friends here. And then I used to go back to that part. And then I like, wow. Yeah. Like one of them in California, one of them in Ohio, one of them. And a lot of them are in Toronto. Oh my god, it's nice to think about. I really am interested in Toronto. It's amazing. All my group people are there, like my group family is there, and I feel like I haven't been there for like 2 years. And my two, like, just came to New York last week. One my teach, one for break, the other one worked on my note. I was like, I saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, I remember many years ago, a Toronto-based airline named VIDHU. My kids made it, I don't think I remember them, so whenever I take work airline, we go to a airport. Yeah, I actually work at South Ronnie Morris. I'm full athlete. Oh my you actually go through like several tests and interviews, and then after that, you just kind of have to be once you get put like wherever you do whatever job they want to work your way up. And a lot of people do like so I was like, if you'll hire me, I'll do whatever. And so children's librarian is what was open. Yeah, I love it actually. Yeah, no, it's really great. I mean, I think the library itself is like very busy and very understaffed, and it's like an insane location. No, we're here.
It's the only public bathroom
because
and obviously also like drug. So there's like a lot of drug use, a lot of people who like are
So like rather than
so like half my job is like really fun stuff with kids, and half my job is like but yeah, I was so I literally lived like 2 blocks away. I was so excited to do it.
So I'm really, I mean, the funny thing is for me, I'm like all of the work that I do is really performance, like sound,
I need to know about.
I don't write to the page, sometimes I do, but it's very different about like visuals, so.
Yeah.
Teaching at
Me and
class,
Jordan both were like kind of work.
No, teaching at Fred is ridiculous, it's like a bullshit.
fake
Yeah.
adjunct
Yeah.
horribleness.
I only knew about UWP. I
I
tried to put
run the operating
a
system,
story together for
and
all
I
the
mean, I think
newspapers.
I just everything else I do is like.
So it counts. You're right.
Yeah,
Because I don't
yeah.
come
Yeah.
from money,
10 years
so,
ago.
like, I just-
Wrote an article in
I'm just like, what do you
Yeah,
consider?
yeah.
There's no.
Yeah, I'm not
It's
just
like,
a fan
man,
of.
It's just an unbelievable, it really is.
yeah.
Actually, what are you doing right now? You're
I
working?
have, recently,
Yeah.
I mostly,
Oh my God.
you know, the library's got like
No, I mean,
unlimited
but
printer
listen,
copies
having
stuff,
that-
so.
Actually,
That's just a good
we had an
use,
amazing
but
conversation
I was
on
gonna say
Friday
for like
about
other
people, like,
people, but
I'm
I
really
love
done with people
finding
being like
collecting.
writing drafts. It's
Yeah.
not real.
Have you guys ever been to
Listen,
the?
like, there isn't one
library
house.
out?
Like,
Yeah, there's
writing
not.
isn't fucking metal. Like, I mean, and it's not, it's also not.
I forget what it's
Right.
called.
It's writing,
It's actually
not
like
metal.
a,
It's its own
like,
thing, but
printing
sometimes
press
lately,
collective, and they have like this, it's soapbox.
Okay.
Oh my God, I read, it's
So
very
they have,
important,
like,
and I read it like
studios,
on like
and then
digital book or
the
something. I was
woman
like,
that, like,
oh
runs
my
it
God.
I'm trying. I was just trying, I'm like, how did I not read this earlier in my life?
And I helped her catalog a whole bunch of them for the library. It's so cool. Yeah, she's got a lot of stuff from like the
Oh my God,
90s,
so
like,
much.
18-year-old.
So can people go check it out?
Yeah, you can just go there. They have open hours. You can go and
Oh,
check
I'm
it out.
sorry.
You have the wallet for it?
Oh.
This whole time.
I'm gonna take a break.
I'm gonna come to it. I'm gonna get it. Oh my God, bless. I know. Are you guys at the book fair?
I'm not.
Y'all want to come on Friday and like get a fucking giant box of books that we don't want to bring back?
So
Can
many
I
books.
just give them to you?
So many
I
good
would love
books.
Because I would really love that.
Okay.
Because like we're not really doing direct sales anymore, and we did for a really long time. And
Mm.
so what I've basically done with them and I've like given them to libraries and archives and small bookstores to make money off of.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Yeah.
So I'd love to just be like, hey, it's Saturday,
If
please
you
don't
can
make me
sell them,
bring
sell
these
them.
back. If you want to
Okay.
sell them their donation, I'll just give it to you.
Okay. Yeah.
I also just said to, I was just talking to Matt.
Yeah.
I don't know their pronouns either. I was like, here, it's the easiest book for the bacon. Do the same thing with you that I did for. I got like 800 lanyards.
What's up?
Oh, yeah, shit.
I got like 800 lanyards.
Oh.
Okay, so
Literally
if you take
easiest
this
one.
and you like tuck it into something,
Yeah.
they will never ask you for
Or
the
just
actual
literally
badge.
a
This is
fucking
just, this is all
postcard
you
on
actually
it.
need
Like,
to do.
nobody
This is all they need to see.
Exactly.
So
Okay.
if it's hanging out of your thing and it's like zipped over, and if they actually ask to see it, you can be like, oh my God, where did it go?
It's the easiest one to get into that I've ever been.
Ever, like, I mean, honestly, you also could wander in,
Yeah.
but that's like the full thing, the full.
Oh my God.
If that's like worth $500, like you're
I was
welcome.
gonna say, thank you so much.
I used to print out the thing, so they used to let you go to the thing and you would actually be like, how many do you want? And I'd be like,
9. Thank you.
not this year, but this year I just grabbed those because they
That's
were just in a
impressive.
pile. I was like, so I really should have gotten more, honestly.
It's like when you lick your hand stamp and you just get it.
Exactly.
Yes. What are you drinking?
So whatever that red is,
Oh, what do I want? I'm also like so thirsty.
there's also that.
Cool.
That's
So-
sparkling water.
Can I just put a tiny bit of it in my bottle? Because there's no more bottle. There's no other thing.
Yeah, I really enjoyed your reading. I walked in.
Oh, thank you.
Going, but I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, this is
I-
a super cute space. also.
I write for the, like, I'm a performer and then I put
I
things
could
on
tell,
paper.
yeah.
So I think I'm sort of the inverse of a lot of people who are kind of like, I write for the page and then, oh my God, I'm reading in person.
Yeah,
It's refreshing.
I
Thank you
would
for doing my footnotes. Were
absolutely.
you here for him doing my
No,
footnotes? Them
I
doing my footnotes?
missed it.
That's okay. It was
The
the
first note,
one.
they did my footnotes for me. 'Cause I have
Nice.
footnotes to almost everything I write.
Nice. Yeah, I would absolutely not consider myself a writer. I write, for my own personal use, but one time I did a reading and I swear I blacked out the entire time. It was just, I know that I did it,
Yeah.
but I barely remember it.
Yeah.
We were just talking about something like this earlier.
That's funny. And I don't think anyone's really filming it, so who knows? Did I?
Was I really there? It remains to be seen. I have to drive. Not very far.
Not very far. Can I ask about this art on the wall, just because? I
Yeah.
find it really gorgeous, but who, is it local? something
Yeah,
local?
so Renata Rojo. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you might have gotten it, whatever you want. Yeah, Renata did the flyers.
Oh, this is.
Which was like very.
Does she have a?
I took a picture of that thing that
It
says hot duck. I
is
was like, yeah.
underscore,
So where are you all going with that?
Have fun. Yeah.
Nice.
This morning, literally.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
been quite a
I'm
day.
sure. You drove
yeah,
there.
so this is her.
And then like the convention center has no, I don't know why I just put that.
Their partner is
The
actually the
convention
one that
center has like
curates
no
the
obvious
collection.
way to get.
Yeah, it's a weird place.
We were like,
Yeah.
we were like, there's no
Yeah, so
way to
she's
get
done
to
a lot
the
of
dock.
show flyers. and
Do I have
stuff.
cash?
We all got
I'm
our
surprised
COVID
it worked.
vaccines and that was. a
Oh,
crazy
yeah, for
experience.
sure. I got mine like in like a,
Yeah, that opening was really fun. We did, Her and then the scene with Rochelle.
cool. Oh, cool. Try myself.
She did the, oh, she did
Very
the.
cute, or yeah, everyone. Then this is, yeah, Rochelle.
I
That was
put,
great.
I put cash in the
Oh,
thing, but
thank
I'm
you.
also gonna give you like all these books.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
No, I mean, honestly, the thing is, honestly, I just, all I want is for people to have them. They're
Yeah.
really not doing me any good, like in my studio.
Okay.
They're just-
You'll get one of mine.
Yeah. Yeah, are you guys are there all day?
We're there all day tomorrow,
Okay.
we're all there Saturday, just
Cool.
like what we do now, and then we'll leave it, they'll have drinks.
Thank you all for the space.